So my story is, unfortunately, I lost my dad to suicide when I was 7, and my mom had a hard time pulling it together after that. Her coping mechanisms became addiction and boyfriend after boyfriend. And I kind of evolved into the adult, and she kind of digressed. I had way too much freedom. I didn't have to wait. I really wasn't told no. I did have some amazing grandparents, and they definitely strengthened my relationship with Christ. They were the grandparents that were, are you going to church on Sunday, Sunday night, Wednesday night? Yes, yes, yes. So when I moved in with my boyfriend at 18, they're like, well, when's the wedding? I'm like, oh. So I got married, had a beautiful daughter out of the deal, but ended up in another relationship that I couldn't fix, more disappointment, and I went through the pain of divorce, and I think it's worse than a death. I did get a wonderful daughter, Caitlin, and after that, I was focused on God's ideal for my life, and I think that is what led me to Marc ultimately. But when we got married, we had 2 7-year-olds, blended family. We had our work cut out for us because, like we said, we did not know how to repair. And we'll share more of, how we grew out of it tomorrow. But you can kind of see as Mylan and Kay tell their story and we tell ours, like there's a childhood injury that we bring into our relationship. And do we want to use those broken pieces against each other, or do we want to heal those pieces? In your story?
Yeah. So I think I heard you say that I was the ideal. Thank you.
You still are.
So
death do us part.
So my dad was the vacillator, and my mom is a pleaser. So I got a lot of close connection with my mom, and I got some close connection with my dad too when I was younger. My dad would read me stories, he would wrestle with me. I'm the youngest, so I had 2 older siblings, and of course they went off and hung out, went to youth group, and I was left by myself, so I would hang out with my dad. But my dad, he was also highly reactive and very childlike. If he didn't get his way, he'd get upset. He literally would throw himself on the floor, like a toddler would throw themselves on the floor. And so, I knew that was weird from a young age. My dad was also highly awkward. He was a speed walker. If we'd go out anywhere, my dad he could walk faster than anyone I bet you guys had ever met.
He walks pretty fast, though.
And because I had to catch up with him. But it was awkward. He was an extrovert too, and socially, it was challenging. People would come to our house and they would sit down, and my dad would sit on the floor in front of them. And my siblings, my brother and sister, would call it his lapdog position. Now, we didn't figure this out until adulthood, until a couple of my nieces and nephews were diagnosed on the spectrum that, my dad was on the autism spectrum. And that's why he was really awkward. And that's probably why he was somewhat a reason why he was highly reactive. Anyway, so Amy's talked a little bit about vacillators. They grow up, they go into adulthood looking for this consistent connection that they didn't get as a kid. And the dating phase is amazing, right? Because it's all about time, it's all about attention, it's all about connection. And so you idealize the other person, you mistake intensity for intimacy. So my first marriage, I met my wife, and we met and we married within 4 months. Absolutely crazy. At this point, I'm from England, if you guys haven't told by my accent. I'm over here, though, at this time, so I have no family directing me or saying, pump the brakes, caution. I was young, I was 26, she was 24. We got pregnant right away. Probably actually got pregnant before we got married, but we didn't know that. And then, what do you do when you're that young and you have a baby and you don't know each other? And it was really difficult and it was really challenging. And in the end, my wife left and left me holding the baby. So I was a single dad for about 7 years. And then I met Amy. And you know what? And you know how I justified that first marriage? I said, well, you know what I did wrong is I met someone and I married them too quickly. Like, I didn't know who that person was. I'm never going to do that again. Okay, guess what? Met Amy in August. We got married in November. Right? But like she said, it was so ideal to us because she had a 7-year-old, I had a 7-year-old, my 7-year-old was missing a mom, her 7-year-old was missing a dad, and so it seemed perfect. I tell this story because there was one point when we were dating, in the brief time that we were dating, by the way, that Amy said to me, I can't imagine anything we would ever argue about. And that is so ironic and funny to me now. Right? So we get married and real life sets in. Right, and this.
I wasn't used to being told no.
That's right, right, and so these two intense people who intensely want to connect with each other then get together, and real life sets in, right, and she's made to wait, or I'm made to wait, or we both want to do different things, and we let each other down. And then what happens with the vacillator? When the vacillator gets upset, they do a push-pull. They're not very good at coming to somebody and saying, hey, I feel hurt when this happens. What the vacillator does is the vacillator plays the angry card. They complain. They criticize. I wish you would have done this better. Why aren't you doing that? You are always like that. You never do this, right? And what's happening on the inside is a hurt. But what are they doing? They're going on the attack. So what happens when you go on the attack with someone? Are they receptive or do they put up a shield? They defend themselves, right? But when two vacillators come together, what do you think the other vacillator does? Does the vacillator do what the avoider does and run away? No. Does the vacillator do what the pleaser does and say, oh, let me fix it for you? No. What does the other vacillator do? Attacks back, right?
So it's kind of like sparks flew and then sparks flew.
And then sparks really flew, right? And so that, I don't see a whole lot of vacillator. And sometimes it's funny because in therapy, I'll have a vacillator who'll say, wouldn't it just be great if a vacillator married another vacillator? And I'm like, no. Because they think, well, I marry another vacillator and they'll want all the same things that I do. But they'll want all the same things that you do at a completely different time, right? And so when you get this pairing that comes together, it's highly contentious.
So when his childhood of just get over it, say sorry and make up, and my childhood of like my mom protesting or not being in healthy relationships came together, it was not good. It didn't feel good. We didn't talk sometimes for, the whole weekend. I wanted to connect, I wanted the pursuit, but it was toxic to our relationship. Like John Gottman, the Gottmans can predict with like 90-something% accuracy what couples will divorce based on how they fought. And like that was like an alarming statistic to me. I did not want to take my daughter through another divorce, take our son through another divorce. Like we had to figure out how to get this right. So this material is gold to the vacillator when they can really understand it's a way for you to be understood in a healthy way. Because under this anger is disappointment. And where does this come from? And if you can help share with one another where that comes from, it's really, really healing. So I think there's a lot of hope for us. We'll be celebrating 12 years next month.